Everyone, Will here with Ava Technologies. I am also joined with Matt. If you saw the video yesterday, you'll notice it's a different face. At the moment, Ben, my other co-founder, is away, so Matt is joining us. He's also a co-founder of Ava Technologies, and we're going to be doing the same format as we always do. We've got a new story lined up within AI. I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to have a off-the-cuff discussion about our thoughts. It's a way that we can bring some of the latest news to you about AI and tech in general. It's a way for us to keep informed because, you know, it gives us purpose to look things up knowing we have to talk about it every morning. So, without further ado, if you're ready, Matt, I will share my screen and we'll talk about what we found today.
Yep, let's go for it.
Let's do it. Click share screen. Takes a second and it should appear any second.
Nice one. Yeah, you know what? The article looks
Bring
so
the
much
call
better
back
in
here.
dark mode.
Oh, have you got it in light mode on your end?
Yeah, I didn't even realize it can do dark. Oh yeah, and there's the toggle. Anyway, I detract.
This is one of these stories where it is an announcement. It's talking about something current in the AI world that's to do with a particular product. But as always, and tends to be the case with AI, I think there's some deeper discussions to be had here. Matt is in tech as well. He's very tech heavy. Ben is in marketing, so this gives us a chance to talk about a trend that I at least see happening a lot in the AI world, and as I'm sure you do as well. So anyway, xAI works on Grok Code Remote to rival OpenAI's Codex. And this has all come off the back of a hackathon that xAI has announced that's going to be happening between December 6th and December 7th in San Francisco, which is obviously going to get a huge bunch of developers all into the same room to do the hackathon stuff. They haven't really detailed it. I think it's just probably an opportunity to market xAI's upcoming models and tooling, which is pretty much what it's going to be. They're going to give access to new Grok models and everything like that. And amongst the things that they are going to be releasing, reportedly, it hasn't been 100% confirmed yet by xAI themselves, is going to be the ability to do Grok Code Remote, which is their name for being able to instruct an AI model in the cloud for a web interface. It also remains to be seen if there's going to be a CLI, but essentially you can prompt Grok, off it goes to do some work. It will create code and do execution in a remote environment, and then it will, do a pull request or something like that. And it's an attempt to keep up with OpenAI Codex, which has a CLI as well as a web interface, and obviously Anthropic's Claude Code, which does exactly the same thing. And xAI obviously don't want to fall behind. So this is quite interesting news anyway, but it also, for me, which is where I'm going to obviously start my opinion on this, is that this signals just a huge shift in where I think AI-driven development is going. We're now seeing almost all of the frontier labs bringing out these new ways of coding, a vision where you basically log on somewhere, you interact with your model, and then you go away and do something else, and then you come back to, after a sustained period of time, to find the work done. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have a determination to further promote a cloud-based virtual environment, all of them, so then you can quite easily allow your model, your AI, to go on its own accord. It doesn't need to be open in your tab in your browser, on your CLI. You can just go out on its own and start working away on one of your projects within some remit that you set it. And I think I've certainly seen some of the useful applications of this via Anthropic's approach. I can't say that I've played with Codex yet. I have to say that I think Claude did such a good job from what I expected that my experience has been limited, so I need to try out Codex. Have you tried out Codex yet?
Not particularly. I tried out their CLI temporarily, but I haven't. I have sort of this, and I couldn't even really tell you why necessarily. I sort of have this resistance to logging onto even Claude Code on the web. I've done a bit of the mobile app version where you're asking it to do pull requests and things. So I haven't really been onto the Codex on the web. I think for me, it's still a trust factor.
Yeah.
The idea of assigning an AI a task and then coming back 30 minutes later. It's all safe because you just get a pull request, but I just wonder if I'm going to come back and it was all just a load of wasted time and also credits as well. It's costly to run these models. So I haven't played with Codex. But
kind of a similar frame. I mean, there are times when it crosses my mind to then go out and consider using it, but I have to admit it's not part of my everyday workflow. It's more like if we've got a series of small bug fixes that I believe the AI is actually going to do a relatively good job of understanding without too much context. If it's in that sweet spot, then I'm inclined to try it. But if you find yourself sitting down for like half an hour writing out enough context for each task for it to actually understand what you want, and then it's able to work in like, what's the word I'm after? When you got like multiple of them working at the same time on different issues.
Sub-agents.
If you're able to, that's the one. If you're able to make the most of that, then yeah, I'm inclined to use it. But otherwise, I have to say, the trust, like you've put, is a very major bit of resistance for me too.
I think it's interesting you said like in my daily workflow, and I think that's also a key point here is for me it's trying to like fit it into a daily workflow where as somebody that writes code every day, how do I suddenly deal and use this whole new sort of way of it's a whole new paradigm in many respects. I don't think the technology is necessarily 100% there. I would see use case is, for example, if there's an issues board on GitHub, and this already happens with GitHub bots and things like that, but I don't think it's good enough yet to just listen to the issues board, pick up an issue, work on that issue, digest actually what that person has put their issue up about, and actually come up with a viable solution and submit it with a PR. You still have to be very instructive about it. It's not automated in the fact that it can pick up that issue automatically. You have to assign it, give it context, and it's purposefully going out of your way, basically to take on a teammate, if you like, really a junior developer in essence that you brief in and instruct on what you want. Now, it's just a very new paradigm, and to get used to and adopt.
I think we're both presenting sort of our experiences of Anthropic's Claude Code approach, and one thing that will be interesting is to see, I suppose, what the difference is like when X comes out with theirs. By the sounds of it in December, it might show and represent a better kind of iteration of the same idea. And if not, then this is something that we can like watch the space of. But right now, I think you can see the potential, but it's definitely not at a level where you would treat it as an actual teammate. It's very junior with its ability to sort of solve a variety of problems, and hand-holding. Yeah, you notice the amount of hand-holding you do actually have to do with it, especially at the pull request level.
Yeah, absolutely. As a technologist and developer over a long period of time, what are your feelings with how this world seems to be going, how the development world seems to be going, that a huge amount of this tooling is taking the workload off of you, and we can clearly see a direction where people see us not actually coding anymore and orchestrating. What's your feelings around that, having gone from the past where because this is something that didn't even exist 3 years ago. We were writing every line of code ourselves.
Yeah. No, this is a really great question, and it's the sort of question that developers are asking themselves over the last couple of years since the sort of evolution of the latest AI as we see today. I think from a personal perspective, I come at it from an angle of what does this allow me to do next? It does, with time, it takes away the time spent on literally coding and elevates my ability to think about problem solving as a wider concern. So I view it as a tool for leverage. I think if a developer is stuck in the mindset of literally developing and also just thinking from a developer's mindset, then that is the mistake. I think you need to think bigger picture. What other parts of the project, the venture, the company that you're working for? What other problems can you now solve leveraging the use of AI? But in the same breath, you have to be honest about where it is good and where it's not, because all these AI companies are quite happy to tell you that it can do everything, and yet in practice, I'm like I'm sure you have a similar view on this one. It just doesn't deliver across the whole breadth. So I do think for the next couple of years there's going to be this transitional period while we kind of wait for AI to catch up if it can. But I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I echo very similar sentiments. To be honest with you, is that I welcome this kind of tooling. I think the first knee-jerk reaction of most people is, oh my god, my job's going to be gone, and
yeah.
In many ways it will, as my job's gone as it stood 2-3 years ago, even.
Yeah.
However, what I've found by slowly adopting AI tooling within the development workflow is actually my purpose and my feeling of value hasn't diminished. I still get just as much satisfaction out of development today using quite heavy AI tooling than I did 2-3 years ago. In fact, I have the feeling of a lot more accomplishment. I've been able to orchestrate and put together a lot more sophisticated ideas than ever would have been possible for me personally, again, go back 2-3 years ago. So I see this as sort of a renaissance, an unlocking of creativity for developers, at least from my experience. My big concern is getting attached to specific tool providers, though. I've noticed that even now, if Anthropic's Claude Code goes down, the world is up in arms, and that shows an over-dependence and an over-reliance on that tooling. There is always going to be an element of that. However, I am a big fan of sort of flexible tooling where if that's controllable by you, and so it's open source essentially, something like that allows you to plug in and play with different models and providers, so you're not strapped to one and overly dependent on one. That's just one small piece of sort of the dependency puzzle that I foresee and currently see happening in the development world. That's the only thing is there going to be a lost skill here? But maybe not. I mean, maybe if you look at it with a bigger picture as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like you and I don't write in assembly, but people in the 80s did.
Yeah.
Just what we code in and what we talk in and the language that we speak it's just going to be different. No, it's for me, I welcome it. I love it. I think it's great. I'm just concerned about privacy.
I think you've hit, honestly, two really fantastic points there. Like the first one being that we need this kind of competition. It's actually really good news for us generally. I'm probably more talking about developers right now, but it does roll into other fields too. It is good for us to have competition, like xAI releasing their own variant, their own flavor.
Yeah.
Because say Claude significantly changes the arrangements that they have with developers, then you've got another option to look to. And I think especially with, and I don't want to get too into this one today unless you do, but although we've spoken a little bit about the venture capitalists' bubble potentials, especially with that potentially around the corner, again, it's good to have a couple of other options in case one of these companies doesn't actually survive it. And again, that might not even come to be. This is all speculation, of course. But I think that whole angle is very interesting. I think the other thing that you've hinted at and kind of got my brain's cogs turning is just this point that I really want to see, and you and I are actively pursuing this, but I want to see more private approaches to this too. Right now, what we're talking about with xAI and Claude and OpenAI solutions is that they're all cloud-based. So every operation you're doing is 100% visible to those companies, and they do store it indefinitely. And I think the privacy concerns there are so much wider than anything we've ever seen with social media, for example, between the 2010 to 2020. So, I mean, when it comes to using these tools, I always, in the back of my head, I'm thinking to myself, am I revealing too much with this query? Am I sharing too much IP that we're working on with this AI company? And I don't think it's far cry to wonder if in a few years' time, they'll have enough resource to just spin up and trial so many different ideas from the information that they're gathering from us. So I do wonder, and this is pure speculation, but I do wonder what sort of good local options could be built that similarly mirror this and can offer enough at the same time. And I think I know, like, you and I have kind of discussed maybe some of the potentials that we could introduce on this front. I don't know what you sort of would want to share about that today.
No, again, it's a very similar sentiment. Is again, as this AI world has progressed, I've sort of gone more and more into privacy and open source, and being a massive fan of it as well. As you said, you don't know. It's very hazy on what happens with this data. There's obviously it's company to company, but you're giving huge swaths, millions of tokens worth of your IP over to companies, and you do have to trust that it's going to the right place. That being said, obviously these models require huge amounts of compute, and the useful ones require huge amounts of compute. Even some of the smaller 30B models, you have to have top of the end spec hardware to be able to run them. So we're not quite there where we can run it 100% locally. That is coming, and it's something that Ben and I have spoken about previously on these videos. If you've watched any of them, then you'll know it's something that we talk about all of the time. And I agree what we should be doing. And you said something very pertinent on Monday, actually, to me in person, which was that we should have sort of privacy as a design principle. I think that's a really good way. That's a really good way to put it, because we can't build everything 100% private and 100% local yet. However, if we have that as a core design principle going into it, and I'm sure you will elaborate on your thought here, since it was your description. But if you have that in mind, then you can start to piece together some of these new frontiers of technology to eventually build something that is actually 100% private, 100% local, and 100% in the hands of the developers using it. Obviously, we build out our own open source solutions, one of which is Nanocoder as a CLI coding agent. Again, that's something that sits on the same breadth as OpenAI's Codex, Anthropic Claude Code, xAI's to be. And I think having a privacy mindset there is really important. It gives complete flexibility at the moment to the developer. If you have good enough hardware to run it locally, you can run it 100% locally, and it works well with 30B, 20B models. And if you also want to use an API, you can plug that in too. So at the moment, that is where we're at with that sort of privacy mindset as a design principle. However, by having that in our mind, we also have a lot of future things that we're actively researching and developing that will roll into these kind of tools to bring extra additional layers of privacy to it.
Yeah. It's not something that can be achieved right away, but you can see, I think, over the next few years, this potential to begin developing it in a more and more private way and in a more controlled way. Just for clarity for everyone, I'm talking about when you're chatting with AI, you're sharing so much data. And what Will and I are talking about is the ability for you to retain control of that data. And in the same breath, you're then controlling your own privacy too. That could be your IP, it could be ideas, or it could actually just be personal information about you or the company that you're working for. Any of those data points are, I think, increasingly valuable to these larger AI companies. And it's not something that they're going to be publicly talking about. So it's not in their interest. So I think it's almost inviting us to take on this remit of, well, how can we bring an element of maximized privacy where it's possible to? But you are completely right, Will, in the sense that there are limits as to how much you can achieve if you just do 100% privacy. So yeah, I think having it as a core design principle in what you're building allows you to then think about how far can we go? Where does privacy have to end to actually deliver anything useful? And communicating that in a really transparent way with your users or the people you work with. I think that right there is probably the key. I don't think there's enough education right now for just how invasive AI actually is when you're sharing so much with it. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting time, especially for us, bearing in mind the sort of work that we're doing with things like Nanocoder, which, by the way, really cool tool. And I assume you guys have already dug into that one before, but it wouldn't hurt to revisit.
We've spoken about it before in different scenarios. Again, if it's the first time viewing it, Nanocoder is just a coding agent CLI. It's, as I mentioned when I previously spoke just then, it's flexible, so you can run local models through it if you can. You can also plug in any API you'd like. You have the choice, which is at the moment a really big thing. So again, if something like Anthropic goes wrong, you can plug in a local model, or you can choose a different provider. It's completely in your hands. We're also working on a bunch of other ways to have a lot of the computational agentic work actually happening on your computer itself, so you limit what actually goes up to the cloud if you're using any cloud-based providers. It's also got things like recommendations engines in there to help you pick local models that will work and discover new ways of working. No, it's a very cool tool. It's completely open source. It's available on GitHub. Since we've mentioned it, I'll put it in the description of this video to check it out. It's very cool, and it's also opened my eyes to the amount of work that goes into not only building a tool because you can build a coding agent, quote unquote, very easily. It's just a big old while loop that gets the model to reprompt itself. But to cater for so many models and so many paradigms, and to get a level of accuracy where this actually becomes a useful tool is, a monumental challenge. And Nanocoder is improving every single day, and it's fascinating to keep unlocking these different nuggets that make the models perform better, make small models perform better, because if we can get it performing better on smaller models, it means you don't have to plug in any cloud providers. And that on top of all the research and development, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is proven to be a very, very interesting project. Doesn't quite feel like a good enough word for this.
Well, to be honest, yeah, exactly. It was just something that was put together as a side project, but it's obviously there's a want for developers here with this kind of focus, because almost naturally it's picked up a lot of steam with what is comparatively quite a small amount of marketing on it. Really, it's just us talking about it on different platforms, and it's taken on a life of its own. There's a huge roster of amazing contributors that are getting stuck in and really bringing it to the community. So no, it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. Even like that last bit there kind of stimulates thoughts in my mind about the stark difference. Why did this actually kind of make a good land with developers? And I can't help but start thinking it comes a little bit back to privacy again. Because the existing solutions out there, you can't see the code behind how they run, and that is a critical difference with Nanocoder. You can see everything. There is no hidden part to it. And then developers across the globe are then coming in and contributing their own experience and skill sets to help improve some of the details of the solution. And absolutely. That's exactly where I think there's going to be a bit of a B story to the developments over the next couple of years. I think the main story is going to be these innovations that the large companies can come out with, and I do think there's going to be a bit of a B story about privacy that's only going to grow, especially if there's some sort of data leak over the next year or two.
Well, this is it. Not exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I could talk forever about privacy.
No, absolutely. To circle it back to the original story, which was xAI releasing their own coding agent and coding CLI, that's going to be very interesting to see. Again, this will shape the open source community and what other tools are being brought out. So it's going to be interesting to have another player and seeing what they're envisioning. I assume there's going to be hopefully some differentiator to, other than it's just xAI's models, but we will see. It's been a long one, but is there any other final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No. Happy to call a wrap point here. I'm looking forward to doing our next one.
Yeah, I know this was a sort of a longer one, but so obviously you can tell that it's our skill set, our domain, and something that we're obviously very highly interested and passionate in. But thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it that like and subscribe. As I say every video, and Ben says every video, we're a very new channel. You also might be seeing this on my channel, Matt's channel. You might be seeing it on social media somewhere. So if you do, don't forget to go across to Over Technologies and check it out there, because this is what these videos are made for. And see you in the next video.